Hey everyone, good evening, welcome back to my channel, True Crime with Jess Rose. How you all doing out there? Happy New Year. Hope you all had a lovely Christmas and New Year. I've got a cold. I'm sorry, so if I start snivelling or coughing, I'm sorry. I mean, I try and do these stories in one take. So when I do reach 1,000 subscribers, that I'll be able to, do lives. And that's basically what these are. I don't edit my videos, as you know. And I've got to admit to you all that this is my 7th take now. First, 1 or 2 times just from coughing. But the rest of it, it's just such a hard story to do, this one. It's the Star Hobson story. Now, if you're from the UK, I would assume you've heard of this little girl's name. If you're not, or if you haven't heard of the story, it is about a 16-month-old little baby. So if crimes against children are too much for you, I completely understand. So I'm just going to let you know in advance that that's what this will be about. It's awful abuse of this child. So if that is too much for you, and I 100% understand that it would be, it is horrific. I do understand. Okay, Star Hobson was born on the 21st of May 2019. Star's parents are Frankie Smith, and her mum's Frankie Smith, her dad's Jordan Hobson. Now, Frankie, when she gave birth to Star, was 17. Frankie, she's got an IQ of 70. She's quite an easily manipulated young girl. A very pretty, really pretty girl. You can see that Star, who's got these massive big blue eyes, you can see she looks like her mum. She was, like I say, she was 17 when she gave birth to Star. Jordan Hobson, her dad, young lad too. And they weren't together long when they had Star. So from the May to about the September, I think they were rocky anyway, and they ended up breaking up when Jordan went to university. He went to University of Sunderland. So, he left Frankie with Star, to look after by herself. I think Jordan's family were involved in Star's life, as well as all of Frankie's family. So you've got Frankie's mum, which would be Star's grandmother. You've got Frankie's grandparents, which is you've got Anita Smith and David Fawcett. They're Frankie's grandparents, which would be Star's great grandparents. Also involved is Frankie's dad, and his name was, I believe, Andrew Smith. Sorry. So that's Frankie's dad is Andrew Smith, and Frankie's granddad on her dad's side is Frank Smith. I'm not expecting you to remember all these names. They do come back after. You've got Alicia or Alicia. I'm not too sure how to pronounce the name. I do apologise, but it's spelled either Alicia or Alicia. It could be either. Zeppler, and that's Frankie's sister. You've also got Frankie's best friend, Holly Jones. Now, by the time Jordan, Star's dad, went off to university, Frankie had turned 18. Her friend Holly was also 18. Now, Holly used to babysit Star a lot for Frankie, and this was because once her and Jordan had broken up, Frankie, she was an 18-year-old girl, I understand that, but she wanted to go out and just go out every weekend and go clubbing and everything else. And it seems that Holly wasn't that type of girl, so she was happy to babysit Star for Frankie. But part of me's like, but you gave up that privilege of going out clubbing at 18 when you had Star. So I'm not saying that you can't ever go out. I'm just saying from what I can gather, Frankie was out most weekends. But she was out with her own mum. So Star's grandmother a lot of the time. You know, so it's all very... Anyway, so that's what was going on up until Star was about 6 months old. Now, like I say, she was very much doted on. Frankie wasn't the best mum in the world. She wasn't feeding Star the way she should have been. She wasn't looking after Star the way she should have been. So it was lucky that there was so many... You know, she had such a big support network. There was such an extended family that could be involved with Star as well. And it got to the point where Holly... Frankie could go out. Not so Frankie could go out. I presume so she knew Star would be looked after at the weekends. She started having Star. From what I can gather, she said weekends, but I'd say it'd be a Friday and Saturday night. And she'd look after Star at her mum's house, Holly's mum's house. She still lived at home. She's only 18. And she'd look after Star most weekends. And, you know, she said she was concerned because Frankie just wasn't, she was kind of neglecting Star. You know, she didn't really have a lot of time for Star. She just wanted to go out and, you know, go out every weekend, meet lads, meet girls, you know, and like I say, half the time my mum was in tow. So this is what was going on in Star's life at that point. Now, where Frankie used to go an awful lot was a place called the Sun Hotel in Bradford. It's where she used to go out a lot. And this is the time when Holly would be babysitting. Now, in November 2019, so Star now would be 6 months, Frankie had the unfortunate meeting with Savannah Brockhill. Now, it was going to happen at some point because Savannah worked at the Sun Hotel and she actually worked on the doors. Now, Savannah Brockhill, she was 26, 27 at this point. Savannah was from the gypsy community. I don't know if... I've heard gypsy a lot now. I don't know if that's still the term to use. I don't know if you would say travelling community, but I suppose if they're not travellers, it wouldn't be. But I have heard gypsy community, so I'm going to use that term, and if that's the wrong term to use, please let me know. Now, Savannah was a dog handler. She was an amateur boxer. She was obviously security at the Sun Hotel. And Savannah, there is footage of her training with a boxing bag. And the way she was lying into this boxing bag, you could see she could look after herself. And it was said that she was known for being a bully around where they lived. She was very aggressive. She was known for severe violence on men and women. So, like I say, she was security at this club, so she would have had to have handled herself anyway to be security with men and women. And this is where Frankie meets Savannah, unfortunately. So they start seeing each other in November of 2019, and almost immediately, Savannah starts to become quite obsessive with Frankie. Now, I told you, Frankie's really stunning. She's a very pretty girl. Savannah herself, quite a pretty girl. You know, but I think the age difference, the fact that Frankie was very easily manipulated, and the fact that Savannah was a very strong character, I think it was a recipe for disaster. And within the first couple of weeks, it was noticed that Frankie had bruises on her. Savannah was hitting her already. Very obsessive over, I told you. When Frankie would go out on nights out to the place where Savannah worked, which was the Sun Hotel, if Frankie was seen to be talking to males or females, or if anyone, you know, approached her, Savannah would just appear from the doorway where she should have been working, you know, to threaten Frankie and whoever was flirting with her. It was all very weird. You know, but not only that, what was starting to get noticed around this time was Star started to get bruises on her. And Holly, who was still looking after Star during this time at the weekends, it was her who was noticing that Star wasn't looked after. She was unkept. She the bruises, like I say. And then it was said that Savannah wanted Frankie to change Star's surname from Hobson, which is obviously Jordan, Star's dad's surname, from Hobson to Brockhill, which is Savannah's surname. She basically said, that's my child now. That's our daughter. She's known her a couple of weeks. And it was just all very intense, and it was a lot at one time. And, we know what it's like when you're first in a relationship, but to be straight away change your daughter's name to mine, she was just very, very aggressive and just not a nice girl at all. So on the 23rd of January 2020, Holly had enough, and this was when the first referral to social services was made. And it was anonymous, but it came out afterwards. It's been known since that it was Holly who made that referral. And what she says was she was round at Frankie's house when social services called to say, we've had a referral from somebody and we want to come round and see you. They gave her an hour. They gave her an hour to prepare herself for them to come round and visit. And that Holly actually says, she says, that'd be like telling a criminal thief that I will come around in an hour to give him time to hide all the stolen goods. It just doesn't make sense. But in that hour that Frankie was given, she tidied up the place they lived at. She dressed Star. She covered her bruises as best she could. And then while social services were there, Frankie had Star on her lap and had her sat at such a position where the bruises couldn't be seen as much. It was just all very, they say Frankie had a very low IQ, but her slyness, that was up there from what I can say, from what I can gather. That was up there. So now we're up to February 2020. And Frankie, who at this point had broken up with Savannah, and you would think, yes, she can get herself on track. She can bond with Star over again, and, they can all live happy ever after. No. What she did when her and Savannah broke up, because she was so cut up over it, considering Savannah had been knocking her about, she asked that her grandparents, which would be Star's great-grandparents, which was Anita Smith, who was 70 at this point, and David Fawcett, to look after Star for her while she got herself together. Of course, they were happy to do that, but when Star came round, first thing they noticed was how much weight she'd lost. There were bruises on Star. She had a real severe nappy rash. David said he's never seen a depressed baby before, but she was depressed. She was 9 months old. She was depressed. It was just very, very sad, really sad. But he said that within a few days of her being with them, she'd started to pack up, and she loved music, started. So there's footage of David playing the guitar, and she was dancing in a little walker, very cute. Looked really happy. They were getting her back on track. Throughout this time, when they were only supposed to be looking after her for a few days, which went on for 11 weeks, nearly 3 months she handed her over. But Holly Holly was over the moon about this because she's seen a change in Star. You know, Star had packed up. She was a little happy baby again. And Holly would still look after Star on the weekends to give Anita and David a break. So don't forget, they're in their later years. I'm not saying they're old. I'm just saying they're in the later years. They're great grandparents. They obviously wouldn't have been expecting to start again. So she'd give them a break on the weekend, and she says, Star was just really coming out of herself, and she was just hoping that Frankie would leave Star with Anita and David, and just let her stay there. While Frankie sorted herself out, however she needed to sort herself out. But this didn't happen because where are we? During the time that Star was living with David and Anita, Frankie and Savannah were still on and off. Couldn't decide what they wanted to do, but they were still on and off. During this time when they were on, Savannah was still really, really abusive to Frankie. She was still giving her black eyes. She was really knocking her about in this obsessive thing. Apparently there was a time when they were at the Sun Hotel. Maybe Frankie should have found somewhere else to go. And a man had been flirting with Frankie, so Savannah dragged her into the toilets and boxed her in the toilet. Giving her a black eye. Then later on in the night, Savannah texted a friend saying, "I nearly drove me and Frankie off a cliff tonight, because I can't cope with this." She would message Frankie's sister, remember Alicia, basically insinuating that Frankie was cheating on her and trying to find out through Frankie's own sister if Frankie was up to no good. Just a real obsessive. And she wasn't young like Frankie. At this point, Frankie was, 18, 19 now? She wasn't that age. She was 27, 28. She was a grown, technically, woman. Behaving like a crazed teenage partner. It's just very, very odd behaviour. Really possessive. So, on the 26th of April 2020 now, said Star had been with David and Anita for nearly 3 months by now. So on the 26th of April 2020, Frankie says she wanted to bring Star to her mum's to visit. Now, during these 3 months, Frankie hadn't really bothered to visit with Star. She hadn't really paid much attention to her. Savannah was who she was concentrating on in this time. But she said, "Let me take her to mum's and I'll bring her back." So, of course, they thought nothing of it. It's her daughter. But literally an hour after that phone call, Frankie phones them up and says, "I'm not bringing Star back. I'm keeping her. We're going to keep her." We being her and Savannah. And, of course, that put the fear into everybody because they knew what had been going on with Savannah and Frankie and the violence that had been involved in their lives. And now Star was going to be thrown right into the middle of that. Now, on the 16th of May 2020, it was Frankie's mum's birthday, and Anita and David went round because that's their daughter. And Star was there, and he picked her up and he gave her a cuddle. He noticed that there were changes already. There was bruises on Star. But, she'd been there for nearly a month. She'd been back with her mum and Frankie and Savannah. And he'd noticed a change, but there was a photo, and when it had got seen that he'd been round the mum's house, him and Anita had been round there, Frankie phones them up. Now, I'm thinking this wasn't Frankie. I'm thinking Savannah was behind this. But anyway, Frankie phoned them up saying, don't ever pick my daughter up again. You just allowed them to have your daughter for 3 months. They're your great-grandparents. And now they can't have anything to do with your daughter. No reason given. Just that if you go near her again, I'm going to phone the police on you. What? So he's obviously heartbroken. Anita's heartbroken. No, everyone's just like torn over this. But what he was starting to hear come back reports of, because it was a small town where they lived, so Savannah had friends around there as well, and it was said that she'd, within like a week of Star going back, she began choke slamming Star. Now, if you don't know what choke slamming is, because I wasn't too sure, it is lifting someone up. So let's not say someone, let's say a grown 27-year-old woman was lifting a 1-year-old baby up by her neck and then slamming her down onto the bed. I don't think it was a hard surface at that point, but choke slamming her, and apparently it was to toughen her up. She's 1. She would have turned 1. So this was going on. So when they found out, Anita and David found out that these were the kind of things that were going on, the second referral to social services is made. And again, social services allowed themselves to be manipulated, and they were told that, you know, it's because that they don't want us, because it wasn't anonymous. They knew who'd made the referral, and they were saying that it's because we're in a gay relationship, and it's because Savannah's from the gypsy community, and it's malicious, and that's why they're reporting us. We're doing nothing wrong. Very, very manipulative. But you would think that social services would be able to see through these things. Star was bruised. She was bruised. She had bruises everywhere if they'd have just looked. So on the 20th of June 2020, David, you see a Facebook post that David makes, and it says, from this to this in 5 weeks. And it's a picture of Star when she was living with them, looking like really perky and or happy. Sorry, my nose gone really red, sorry. Or perky and happy, and then it shows that 5 weeks later, oh, it's so sad. Her hair's all unkept. She's got bruises all on her face. So she's been grabbed. So the bruises all down her face. And he just basically says, from this to this in 5 weeks, what's going on, Frankie? With a heart. And this is what he'd put up on Facebook. She just looks so sad. So sad. Well, Jordan Hobson, obviously Star's dad, saw this post, and he made the 3rd referral to social services. And at this point, they make Frankie bring Star to the hospital. And when they do this, it shows that she Frankie brought Star to the hospital, but fobbed it off as Star had bumped into things, and she'd bumped into a coffee table. She's believed again. So then there's a lady by the name of Rachel Whiteley. Now, Star had been brought to a family barbecue at Frankie's mum's house. Rachel Whiteley was Frankie's mum's friend, so it might have been at Rachel's house. But it was a barbecue. Frankie was there with Star. I'm not sure if Savannah was there, but Star, she wasn't eating what Frankie had given her or something. And so Frankie had, she'd ragged her. This is what I mean. It wasn't just Savannah. Frankie had ragged Star. And one of the neighbours looked at this Rachel Whitley or White, I think it's Whiteley, and she looked that disgusted, and that Rachel was so disgusted that we have referral number 5 to social services. Number 5 in 4 months? So social services come round and no, I'm sorry. I've gone ahead of myself there. That was number 4. That was referral number 4. So that was in July of 2020. That was when that barbecue was. Nothing done again. So now we come to our 5th and final referral, and that was on the 2nd of September 2020. Sorry about that. And who made this referral was Star's great-grandfather on Frankie's dad's side. So this man's name was Frank Smith. So this is Frankie, her dad's dad. So Frankie's dad's Andrew Smith, and this is Frank Smith. So another one of Star's great-grandfather. So this is what I mean. She was just surrounded by people. This wasn't a child who no one, saw her, no one knew. People seen her and they were trying. They were begging social services to help and get involved and do something. And the reason Frankie's granddad, Frank Smith, the reason he made this referral, there's a video and it is out there now, and it's literally a 2-second video. It's like a little snippet, and you can see Star's side of her face. She kind of turns her face from this side to this side, and the bruises again, look hand bruises, but there's all her ears bruised, her neck's bruised. There's another photo where she's kind of lying this way. It does look like she's asleep, and there's a massive, deep tissue bruise on this side of her face with cuts down her eye. Very thin, really thin as well. I mean, she was quite a chunky, but she was, like our babies have the cheeks and everything else. So all of that are gone. So this video is from the 2nd of September 2020, and that's when the 5th and final referral was made. Now, when social services came out after this report, Savannah was there with Star, and Frankie was up in Scotland. So, mate, it seems that even though this was a very obsessive relationship, it seemed that Savannah also babysat a lot for Star while Frankie was off doing her own thing. So when social services came round, Savannah had excuses this time. And what social services noticed, they noted the bruises on Star, and they noticed that she was very wobbly on her legs. Now, Star's 16 months at this point. She's coming up to 16 months old. So on the 15th of September 2020, the final report from social services was closed. That was on the 15th of September 2020. But on the 13th of September 2020, that we know now, obviously no one knew then, but now we know. So 2 days before that report was actually closed, Savannah used to bring Star to work with her. And it was at a recycling plant in Doncaster where she worked as well. She worked the doors of a weekend, but she worked here in the week. And she used to bring Star with her. Very unusual. I mean, you see it's a recycling plant. It's like a massive car park there, and nowhere where a baby should be. And on that date, when the CCTV obviously showed the car coming in and everything, and when they looked into this more after the fact, they zoomed in and they could see. Now, I haven't seen this, and I haven't seen it anywhere online, to be honest. I don't think I'd want to see it. I know I wouldn't want to see it. But over a 3-hour period, Savannah dealt 21 separate blows to Star. They looked, it was with a hand and a fist. They looked like there was some power behind it. Don't forget this is on camera, so there was no one there as a witness, but it looked like there was a lot of power behind these hits that were being dealt to Star. At one point, Star was hit that hard she fell out of a car seat. She fell out of the door and was dragged back in. And when approached with this, Savannah's excuse was, "Oh, no, I was just playing with her. This is what I was doing," to try and cheer her up. No one bought that, by the way. And yeah, that's what went on 2 days before the report was closed. Now, like I say, social services wouldn't have known that, but they also didn't even try and find out. It was 10 days. 10 days they closed that account. Not account, the referral. Okay. So on the 22nd of September 2020, so now Star is 16 months old, and a call was made to 999. Now, you can hear that call online, and I think it's 11 minutes long, and it makes you so angry to listen to. It's Savannah, of course, the mouthpiece. It's basically 999, and you know when they answer the phone, they're like, "It's the patient breathing." It's normally the first thing that's said. And she's like, "Yeah, she's breathing. She's yeah, she's fine." That kind of tone. And she basically says within this phone call that her daughter, my partner's daughter, my daughter as well, I've brought her up. That's what she says. I was in the kitchen making a coffee. Now, you know about lawyers. We know about people in these situations, and the perpetrators, they always elaborate far too much. Generally how you know when they're lying. And to the operator, rather than making it quick and fast, try and get the best possible help out to this child, it's very elaborate. And I was in the kitchen making a coffee, and I heard a bang, and I heard one of the kids. Now, there's 2 kids in that room, and she talks about, we don't know their name, I don't know who they are, I don't know who the relations are to Frankie and Savannah. I don't know. If you don't know, let me know. I haven't been able to find out who these 2 kids are. I don't mean name and age or anything like that. I just mean I don't know what their relation was to Star or Frankie or Savannah. But this is how disgusting she is. She says, one of the little lads, all I heard him say was, "Star," and when I came in, Star was on the floor. Basically saying this toddler, who had said that this child was a toddler, was to blame for Star, baby Star, being on the floor. She was blaming a toddler. You gotta be a special kind of evil. I mean, yeah, you've got to be. You have to be. And she says that, I walked in, he said Star, and she says she doesn't know if he's done something or she's fell off the sofa or what she's done. But she says basically the little boy says bang, Star, and she said, but when she went over, she went to sit her up, she rubbed her back, she started being sick. So then she put her in the recovery position. Then she done CPR. Oh, very, very 11 minutes. 11 minutes she was on the phone. Now, I know they do keep you on the phone until help arrives. I get that. But she was very calm, very matter of fact on the phone, and just so elaborate in her story. It was just I think even if you didn't know, you would know from that phone call that she was lying. So anyway, when the paramedics come round, they walked into little Star Hobson, lying on the floor, looking very pale, barely breathing, in a nappy, and that's it. And when they tried to bring her round, obviously they couldn't, so they brought her into the ambulance, where she went into cardiac arrest. They managed to bring her back, but got her straight to the hospital. But when they got her there, now this was at 3:45 the call was made. And by 5 p.m. on the 22nd of September 2020, Star Hobson died. And what actually happened to Star, I will go back a little bit now, but in those months between May 2020 and September 2020, we know some of what was going on because there was recordings made of Star, and the recordings were made by both Savannah and Frankie. One of them was, I mean, it was said that, and Holly said this as well, that Star was always exhausted. She was always really, really tired. And it turns out that they were keeping her awake, whether it was to make these, I don't know if they were Facebook posts, or they were shared to friends, if they were TikTok, I'm not too sure. But there was videos of, there was one of Star sat on like a green plastic chair, looking so exhausted, covered in bruises, and leant forward to where she dropped off and she banged her head off the floor. They were laughing on the recording because it was obvious that they were both recording because it was two separate angles. You could hear them laughing. And not only that, they edited those videos, well, that video in particular, with music and a caption that says, effed it, this is when she knew she messed up. On about Star, thinking it was funny. And Frankie apparently turned around and said, yeah, it's like something you'd say on You Being Framed or on a funny video on Facebook. Those videos that people have of their children, and if they've hurt themselves, or if they are genuinely funny videos, and you know the child not hurt themselves if they fell over, but they haven't hurt themselves, should I say, but they're quite funny. They're videos that you know, normally the parent will be recording something else and just catch that. You know, they set this up. They, from what I could gather, were deliberately not letting her sleep so she would get tired and do clumsy things, because they were just sat there with the video. They were just sat there waiting for her to do something. There was another video where, again, she was so exhausted she fell asleep in the food that was in front of her. Again, they were there ready to record it. There were text messages between the two of them where we find out that Frankie, as well as Savannah, were holding Star's head under bath water. I'm assuming, from what I could gather, that it might have been maybe Star was crying when her hair was getting washed. So the answer to that was to hold her head under the water, and they were bickering on these messages over who held her head under the water longer. There is footage of Star being dragged through Bradford City Centre, one of the high streets. And she's being dragged by Frankie, I believe. I don't know if they were both there. She's crying and she's being dragged. And the reason she couldn't walk properly was because not only had she had a fractured leg, her tibia. That was healing, and it was a fresh fracture that they're saying would have been from a leg being twisted, and that had been in a stage of healing and been fractured again. Because one of Savannah's favourite things she loved to do was to hold Star up above her cot, holding her leg by one leg. It's just heartbreaking, it really is, because I think when you see photos of a child that you're about to do a story for, or that you read about, or, you know, they're stills, aren't they? And they're heartbreaking, and, you know, your heart goes out to them. But when you see a video, it brings that child to life in front of you. And there's so many videos of her. And just to know that that's what was going on behind closed doors. So these were the things that were going on. She was being punched, she was kicked, she was stamped on. She was humiliated by the videos, like I say. There was no love whatsoever. There's a video of Frankie going, "Do you love mummy?" And apparently Star, when she was around her other family members, was very quick to say yes. But in this video, you can see her just kind of look up at her mum, look down, and say yes very quietly. Just so it wasn't just physical, it was emotional, it was mental. The abuse just knew no bounds of this poor child. And the cause of death, it was catastrophic injuries to her abdomen. And basically, she'd been punched, kicked or stamped on that hard that it had lacerated the largest vein in her body, which runs along the middle, I believe. So there was 50% of the blood found in her body was all found in her abdomen. So when the paramedics came round and seen her lying on the floor, obviously they wouldn't have known this, but it was said that from the moment that happened, there would have been no saving her. No one would have been able to save her. She was already dying. And while she was dying, before the paramedics were called, they do computer checks and everything else. And from when this had happened to when the phone call was made, there was Google searches done of what do you do when a baby goes into shock. She obviously thought that whatever damage she'd done to Star had just put Star into shock, and she was trying to Google ways of snapping her out of it. So there was a 15-minute window of when the final beating had taken place to when the paramedics were called. Although it was said that those 15 minutes wouldn't have saved Star, but we'll never know, will we? So 2 days after Star Hobson had been pronounced dead, Frankie and Savannah were charged with her murder. And while they were getting all the evidence together, which is when they found the Google searches, they found all the messages between the two of them. So the trial didn't actually start until October 2021. During the trial, Savannah, laughing, joking, looking bored, playing with something in her hand, yawning, no real interest, even when the autopsy photos were being shown, even when all of Star's catastrophic injuries were read out. Didn't care. Couldn't care less. Frankie, on the other hand, her so-called mum, Star's so-called mum, she cried the whole way through her trial. But to be honest, that weren't for Star. She didn't feel bad over it, I don't believe. I think she cried for herself. That's who she cried for. She was 20 by that point, but you're 20, you're an adult. And to sit there crying for yourself is just as disgusting. In November 2021, Savannah Brockhill was found guilty of the murder of Star Hobson, and she was sentenced to a minimum of 25 years. Frankie Smith, Star Hobson's mum, was found guilty, but she was found guilty. She was found not guilty of murder and manslaughter, but she was found guilty of allowing the death of her daughter. And she was sentenced to 8 years. She'll be lucky if she does 4. By which point she won't even be 25. And she'll just go on and live her life. Just disgusting. A disgusting story. Just a heartbreaking story. It gets me so angry. And I think the reason there's such a public outcry is because, as I've said, there was 5 referrals done to social services. With Arthur Lavigne Hughes, I think there was 4 or 5 referrals done by his family members and extended family members and friends, also to social services on his behalf as well. Nothing was done. It's not even like social services didn't go round. I don't know what's worse, them not going round, or the fact of what actually happened is they did go round and allowed themselves to be manipulated by these partners. New partners, not people who've been in these children's lives for years or been with their parents for years. Like, brand new partners from beginning to end. Savannah Brockhill was with Frankie for 10 months? From beginning to end. I think, what was her name now? Emma Tustin? I can't think of her name. Arthur's so-called stepmom. She was with Arthur's dad for 6 months. And they come into the lives and destroy everything. But I can't aim it at them as well. You've got to, okay, they're the ones who did the final blow in both those cases, but the parents allowed it. Not only allowed it in these cases, it's not like Frankie was this poor, timid little girl in a corner who didn't know where to turn. She had no family, and, she was being beaten herself and she didn't know what to do, and she tried. None of the above. She had everywhere to turn. Everywhere. They even broke up. She was away. She got away. And she went back. And not only went back, but dragged her daughter along for the ride. Same with Arthur's dad. Not only was he with a vicious woman, he was involved in those beatings as well. And just to know that all of those family members and friends who were involved begged for help, and were just told, stay out of it or we'll get the police. That isn't just Frankie and Savannah. That was social services that were saying that. If they come round, or if they make trouble for you, phone the police. Look, Savannah and Frankie thought they were untouchable because of the backup they had with social services. I just don't know. I just think, we say every couple of years, and I mean, do we even get through a couple of years? But, it's also, there needs to be an overall, and there needs to be this, and there needs to be that. I've done stories on Victoria Climby, I've done Baby P, we've done Daniel Palka. So many stories of these children that just just left to be murdered. And it's always told, oh, there'll be an investigation, this will happen and that will happen, and it's still happening. And, you know, I understand when, you know, they're hidden away from people and, you know, no one knows that they're around and there's no family members. But when family members are screaming for help, the more attention's got to be paid. It has to be. You know, I understand, you know, there are cases where social services are coming out and the family are innocent. And so I understand it's so hard, but I think to save a child, if that meant taking them away while investigations were taking place, and then if everything's okay, go, you know, there you go, you can go home, would be so much less devastating for everybody than just going, we don't want to take that risk, so we're going to leave these children with them and hope for the best. You know, Frankie's dad, Andrew Smith, he couldn't take the guilt. He couldn't take the guilt, and he actually committed suicide on in June 2021. And he sent Frankie a letter saying, I'm going to go and look after our baby now. The Star, basically. He couldn't take it. And his dad, which would be Star's great-grandfather, just basically said, you know, my son made his choice, but he did live to 50. That poor baby only had months. She had 16 months. That was it. You know, he sounds like quite old school and very matter-of-fact from what I can gather, but the ripple effect's just been horrific. And it's just, these stories just devastate me, they really do. That was the story of Star Hobson. If I have got anything wrong, if I've missed anything out, if I've got any details wrong, please let me know, because like I say, details are just coming out. I've tried to make sure I've got everything included and correct, but, you know, anything that I have got wrong, please let me know. I don't know how to end this now. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you to my new subscribers. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for all my likes and my comments, etc. And yeah, that was the story of Star Hobson. Just so upsetting. Thank you for joining me again. And I will see you all very soon. And hopefully I'm not all bunged up and coughing through the story and all red-nosed and stuff. But thank you so much for joining me again. Take care, everyone. Thank you.